All right, Algebra 2, we are working with the quadratic equation today. So the quadratic equation is x equals the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, all divided by 2a. Not just the square root, the whole thing divided by 2a. So we're going to have two answers because we have a plus and a minus. And we also have a square on our x, on our variable, right? So we're going to have two answers. Well, in this quadratic formula, or in this quadratic equation, we have x squared minus 12x plus 61 equals 0. And in this formula, we have a's, b's, and c's. A is the number in front of x squared, b is the number in front of x, including the sign, and then c is the number by itself. So a is this imaginary 1, b is negative 12, including the sign, and c is a positive 61. So let's just plug in what we know. The opposite of b, so that's a negative 12, plus or minus the square root of negative 12 squared, minus 4ac, all over 2a. Now we're just going to simplify. The opposite of negative 12 is positive 12, plus or minus the square root. Negative 12 squared is negative 12 times itself, so that's a positive 144, minus 244, all over 2. So now we have 12 plus or minus the square root of negative 100 over 2. Well, do we like having a negative inside the square root? Nope. That becomes an I. The square root of 100 becomes 10. And we have 12 plus or minus 10i over 2. 12 divided by 2 is 6. 10i divided by 2 is 5i. So we have 6 plus 5i and 6 minus 5i. Same kind of idea right here, except there's a 3x on the right side. We like having a 0 on the right. So let's move it over to the left. We're going to subtract 3x, and now we have x squared minus 3x plus 5 equals 0. Our a is 1, b is negative 3, c is 5. Let's plug in what we know. The opposite of negative 3 is positive 3, plus or minus the square root of negative 3 squared minus 4 times a times c, all over 2a. Negative 3 squared becomes 9, and 4 times 1 times 5, we are going to subtract 20. So here we have 3 plus or minus the square root of negative 11 over 2. There is not a nice square root of 11, and it cannot be simplified, so we're just going to take care of the negative. So we have 3 over 2 is 3 halves, plus or minus I. The I comes out in front right here. We still have the square root of 11, and it's all divided by 2. Lastly, we have the discriminant. So the discriminant is everything underneath this square root right here. So it's the b squared minus 4ac. So discriminant equals b squared minus 4ac. If our answer is positive, it's 2 real solutions. If it's equal to 0, it's 1 real solution. And if it's negative, it's 2 imaginary solutions. So there's i's in our answer. So right here we have x squared plus 4x plus 1 equals 0. A is 1, B is 4, C is 1. We get that from here. And we're just going to plug this into the B squared minus 4AC. So 16 minus 4 is 12. That's a positive number. It's 12 is greater than 0, so we're going to have 2 real solutions, for example.